begin, though, with Chanley Painter, who is live tonight in Salem, Idaho, outside the home of Chad Daybell, outside of the recovery site. I guess that's what we're really talking about here, Chanley. Can you set the scene for us and bring us up to speed as to what's happening tonight out there?
That's right. This is Chad Daybell's home, the site where 2 human remains of children were recovered. Now, this is a very busy spot. It's a rural farming area. We're about 20 minutes or so north of Rexburg, about a mile north of the Fremont County line in Salem, Idaho. And Chad Daybell's house sits on a corner lot. It's a quite busy intersection here on the Salem Highway and the 200 North roadway. And people tell me, the neighbors around here say it's always really a quite busily traveled road. And Chad Daybell lived here with his family for about 7 years. In fact, his first wife, Tammy Daybell, died in this very home last October in what one neighbor described as the start of a very traumatic period for the community, where things just never seemed to add up. And over the last couple of hours here at the home, there have been members of the local LDS Ward Church helping the daughter of Chad Daybell, Emma, move from her home, which is across the street from here, into Chad Daybell's home, because Chad Daybell no longer resides in this home. He is in the Fremont County Jail, where he was taken into custody just south of here, just a little while down the road. Yesterday morning, he was booked on 2 felony counts of concealing or destruction of evidence. He's being held on $1 million bail. And of course, those autopsies of the human remains are pending for identification in the Ada County Medical Examiner's Office. But the family of Lori Vallow has confirmed that those bodies were of J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. So still very much a lot of activity out here on the scene, Vinny.
Yeah, Chanley, we noticed as you were speaking, there were people walking in and out. These are all, again, that's Chad Daybell's adult daughter who is now moving into the house. And any reaction from them to everything that is going on? Are they acknowledging, Court TV is there as well as many other members of the media?
You can't help but acknowledge the media presence surrounding the property of Chad Daybell. And while we've been out here throughout the day, as the family is moving from one house to the other, they seem very cordial. They've been very professional, speaking to some of us as we stand here where we can stand to get video. And they don't seem distracted or in any way at what we're doing, and go about their business in a very polite and professional way.
All right, someone else visited the area where you are today, and that was the Woodcocks, Kay and Larry Woodcock, little JJ's grandparents. Let's take a listen to what JJ's grandfather said earlier today.
This has torn up so many people. It's destroyed people. It's torn up whole homes, and there's no need for this. I'm not coming in hostility in any way. I come with trying to be the peacemaker, and that's all I want. I just want to be a peacemaker. Let's all get along here. And I know it's an old cliche, but it's so true. This is not about hatred. This is about mending fences, and that's all I want to do. I'm not worried about the people that are responsible for this. The judicial system will take care of that, and anybody else that was involved that needs, part of it. But at this point, my job is not hatred. My job is to come here and do what I can do to mend fences.
Heartbreaking, to say the least. Chanley, let me ask you about Larry Woodcock and going out there. He's talking about mending fences. And that's an interesting way to approach a devastating situation like this. But he said the people responsible, he kind of said, let the system of justice. So we're talking about that mending. Are we talking about he and his family and the folks who we see behind you in Chad Daybell's home?
You're exactly right, Vinny. He referred to that a couple of the children or family members he is close to along the last several months as JJ and Tylee have been missing. But the other family members that we've seen moving here back and forth that have been loyal to Chad Daybell, their father, their grandfather. He was here wanting to mend fences. He came in peace. He said he was a peacemaker. It was a very emotional scene when he arrived. Kay Woodcock was also there last night. They'd flown in from Louisiana, where they're from, to be here to see JJ Vallows, who they say the remains were. We haven't had official identification of the remains, but they wanted to see where JJ was found and recovered, and they are asking for privacy right now. They did that interview, but they don't want to speak anymore. They need to just be with themselves and have time to grieve and move on as best they can.
Yeah, very understandable. Chandler, we know last night much of the neighborhood was blocked off. You know, no one could get close to the home. Is law enforcement still doing anything over at the recovery site, the property of Chad Daybell?
The investigators actually wrapped up their search, their work last night, but there still is a deputy on patrol 24/7 throughout the day that we've been here today. We've seen a couple of shifts take place where they're just on site, on the lookout, because this is a very popular destination these days for the media, for onlookers, and for those 2 days of that search warrant for law enforcement officers. And also the neighbors around here have kept a very close eye on what's going on, especially during that police search. Because of those barricades, only neighbors really got a close-up look to what they were searching. In fact, we talked to one who lives across the street where he recognized one of those areas in Chad's backyard, and he had this to say.
We've been very concerned the whole time for JJ and Tylee. We noticed they were having a few bonfires that were kind of out of the ordinary. So they had a bonfire, a big bonfire last fall, and they had 2 or 3 big bonfires this spring. He was strange. He was different. He didn't talk a lot, didn't make eye contact with us very much. Normally he would.
Vinny, last fall, no one really knew about the children's disappearance yet when there was the activity that this neighbor noticed in the backyard. And I've been throughout this Salem highway, the neighboring corner where his house is, speaking to some of the neighbors today, and it's so apparent how the effects of this loss and how this has affected the community is palpable still. Even today, it's going to take a while for them to really process everything and add everything up that's happened around here over the last several months.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, Chanley, the neighbor talking about bonfires in the fall, that has me a little bit scared tonight. We're going to talk more. Chanley Painter is live in Idaho for us tonight. And Chanley, we're going to check back with you in just a short while. I know you're going to move locations to show the folks at home some more of what's happening out there. So we'll be back with you in just a moment. Right now, let's bring in special contributor, Court TV special contributor Ashley Banfield. Ashley, a lot to react to, getting our first real look at Chad Daybell's home, his neighborhood, getting an idea about what's happening in terms of his family. And now we hear from a neighbor that there were some bonfires last fall, big bonfires last fall in the backyard, seemingly very close to the site of where these remains were recovered.
Yeah, I'm putting 2 and 2 together with the reporting from yesterday. And it's extremely disturbing. I don't know if I can make this connection yet, but the reporting regarding the condition of the remains was that at least I think one of the bodies was in an egregious was treated in an egregious way. And now I'm wondering if that had anything to do with the bonfires, and if that didn't work, maybe what was supposed to be done away with in the bonfires ended up being buried. I don't know, but I'll be very curious to find out if there's any connection between a bonfire, at least as Chanley just reported last fall, and then 2 or 3 more this spring. That's just extremely disturbing given the timing of when those children went missing. I don't like that.
And the location.
I mean, that's also the evidence issue too.
But the neighbor said it was the location that made him think and remember those bonfires from the fall. That is, to me, that is
right.
a little bit shocking
Vinny,
tonight.
the location. I mean, Chanley's standing on what sounds like a pretty busy street. I mean, we just saw an RV go by. I mean, it's a busy, busy street. And it is within a stone's throw. And when I say that, I'm not using the term, I'm saying a literal stone's throw from where those blue tents are located. So I'm just sort of flummoxed by the concept that human remains could be buried just mere feet away from a busy street, even if it's at night. I mean, even if, it just shocks me that it's just so out in the open. And look at all those cars. Hey, look how close that is to the thoroughfare, to the neighbors, to Chad's daughter who lived across the street, for God's sake. What did she see? What did they see? What could he possibly have told them he was doing?
This is getting more and more frightful, and I think the more we learn, the more disturbed and disturbing the details are going to be in this case. And that affidavit is sealed, and when that thing gets unsealed, I can't imagine what is in those pages. I just can't imagine. Now, as we're following this case, Ashley, it brings back memories, disturbing memories, but memories nonetheless of other cases that we've covered, and the one big one, which involved, again, a missing child and remains being recovered after a parent has been arrested on other charges. And of course, I'm talking about the case down in Orange County, Florida, involving the death of Kaylee Marie. And I understand you had an opportunity to check in with our friend, America's Judge, today.
I did. I wanted to talk to Judge Belvin Perry, who presided over the Casey Anthony trial, because too many things started to sound the same in this case. Children missing, no one reports them. Children discovered in, sadly, in the condition of remains. Parents locked up, not talking. And I'm throwing Chad in there, even though I had a Facebook follower who pointed out very cleverly that who knows when those children were killed, but Chad may not have been married to Lori at the time, so he may not enjoy the stepdad reference. But I was so curious about Belvin Perry's insights into cases like this and how hard they are to prosecute, how hard they are to preside over. And this guy, he's the former chief judge of the Florida Ninth Judicial Circuit, for decades, and he knows courtrooms. And I asked him specifically about how tough it is to go through a trial when there are children involved. Have a listen.
In all my years on the bench, the most difficult thing to ask a jury to do is to view the autopsy photographs of the remains of children. It's a very emotional part. Some jurors will cry, some jurors will look and turn their heads away. It takes an emotional toll on the jurors. You try to give an instruction to the jury to warn them what they are about to see. So you just won't put it to them without any warning. You got to give them an opportunity to emotionally brace themselves for what they're about to view.
Vinny, he had so many more interesting things to say about what is coming down the pike in this case, specifically jury selection. This is tough. This is high profile, just like Casey Anthony, and there's religion involved. So lots more coming from Belvin Perry later at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, at the top of the hour. Belvin Perry's such an impressive judge. He really was. And you know how I know he was impressive? During the coverage of the trial, my dad, who was a federal judge, was watching that trial closely as well. And he was impressed. And that's not easy to do. So Judge Belvin Perry, I'm looking forward to the top of 9 o'clock. America's Judge with Ashley Banfield. Thanks so much, Ashley.
Sure thing.
All right, we've got more. As I said, Chanley Painter's on the ground. She's moving locations right now. So when we check back in with her after this short break, right? All breaks are short, right? We always tell you that. Anyhow, when we check back with Chanley, she's going to be in another location so we can show you more of what she has seen today and what is happening near the site of where those human remains are found in Chad Daybell's property in Salem, Idaho. We'll be right back.